Life Hacks Beyond Convention with Dee and Sonia.
Do you remember being questioned about socialization when you were homeschooling? Because my response was always that you wouldn't normally it's not natural to have a whole group of children together at their own control, which is often the case in schools. Um, yeah, and I think there's a biblical thing about fools, having a whole heap of fools together. And that was always my answer, because in homeschooling there's a higher ratio of adults to children, and they're going to be adults much longer than their children. And at no point in their life will they be in a room with 30 others of their age with one other person in charge that's a lot older. And yeah, what do you get at schools? You get pissing competitions, literally.
Exactly. Well, that's right. That's it. But yeah, like socialization, I think that always seemed to be the number one thing that people were concerned about when they'd
Yep.
find out we were homeschooling.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things that I would always think and say to people was the same as you, that like there's nowhere else in society where the only people that we interact with are those that our exact age, and it has nothing
Yes.
to do with your interest, it has nothing to do with your skills. And like my kids actually got such a broad like they would talk with people of all ages. They were really good at talking to those that were a lot younger than them, to the same age as them, as
Yes.
adults. And all of my kids, like my youngest, she started her newspaper round when she was only 12, and that was interacting with all sorts of different age groups of people, as well as she had to organise money in that then. You just need to. And my middle daughter, like she got her first, not her first job, but her first proper job, if you know what I mean. She was only about, she must have been 15 and a half or 16, where she's working with all these other, adults in the adult, and people would say, oh, we can't believe how mature you are. And it's like, it's funny, she just was used to in relating with all people of all ages instead of only relating with those of her own age. And that's it, isn't it? They're in this classroom of students, and the only thing they've got in common is their age.
Yes, exactly. And then you set them out into the world where everybody interacts differently, and they wonder why they've got anxiety and stuff, because they've not had the opportunity to learn how to communicate with various age groups.
And it's not only age groups, because you think you might not even have the opportunity to find somebody else that likes the same things that you do.
Yeah.
So if there's nobody there that enjoys doing the same things you do, how do you ever really get to make really good long-term friends?
That's right. And the other thing that homeschooling provided, because we did gather every so often, I remember saying, there was a large group of kids from 4 to 18.
Yes.
And I said, when I first learned about homeschooling, I went to something and there was a game going on with phonics cards. And the age range was from 4 to 18. But the kids had designed the game so that there were 4 sets of rules for different ages. And I said, I looked at this in wonder, because they just said, oh, you have to say what it says on the card. You have to say the options of what it, the sounds it can make, and you have to define it, and then you have to do all those, plus you have to put in a sentence type thing. And so that this one game had 4 sets of rules, that fitted the kids that were involved.
And they all understood what they needed to do. There was all agreement.
That's huge.
Exactly.
We've got grown-ups that can't do that.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I know. And so therefore they're all being extended, aren't they? The young ones are being extended socially and academically, and then the older ones are actually being extended in leadership.
Yes, and the socially in both directions in between.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And the like my experience with the groups that we're involved in too, kids just innately recognise skills and abilities in other children. And so they
Yes.
would actually, whatever it was they were doing, it'd be people would be able to fit in with
Yeah.
their own skills,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're really good at that. You do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Or
can
you
you help
really
such
like
and
this. Why don't we work together and I can teach you
yeah.
that?
Mm. Yeah, we drew education from lots of different sources too, because there's so much out there for the homeschooling
Mm.
community. But remember, we did timbrel at my place.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you play
Tambourines.
a tambourine in a
Yep,
group?
yep,
Yeah, and
yep,
that was an experience that I'll never forget. Just
yeah, yep,
something
yep.
completely different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Mm.
Well, I actually, it was only this morning. There's a cat again. I'm trying to look
Yeah.
over here.
Hello, Tori.
Cat. I had, because I'm a member of the zoos. So
Okay. Yes.
every so often they send you out magazines.
All right.
And I obviously just put my homeschool hat on very briefly because I was looking at the magazines and I just thought, oh man, there's like if I had kids that were being
Yeah.
taught, there's some fantastic things here to do with the zoos
Yeah.
and really good resources for homeschoolers. So even just the magazine itself would give you ideas for things that you could do at home, but
Yeah.
also if you can afford it, you could also go to the zoos.
Yeah. And
Mm.
um, innovation and technology. There was a group excursion we did to an innovation and technology thing at Wayville. Were your kids involved with that?
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
science centre or
Robotics.
something. Yeah,
Yeah, they did
robotics. Yeah,
robotics.
yep,
That was mind blowing.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly.
mm,
Actually, there was a lot of things back in the day, and I'm assuming that's still available, though maybe less is available now because they've probably got a bit stricter with working with children's checks and things like that of the people that
yeah.
are running them. So I don't know
Yeah.
how hard or easy it is to integrate. But, most places were more than happy if you were able to get a few students together to give you tours or put things in
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping well, I guess that was a while ago too. I mean, so much is now available online. Um,
It's not the
yeah.
same, though.
No, it
It's not the
isn't. No,
same
it's two
looking,
people
learning about robotics
and
online.
building a robot.
Yeah, and actually
Real
going
robot.
and building it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Well, hopefully the homeschooler, because I think a lot more people are doing it after COVID or during and ongoing. So, yeah, hope they're able to source the kinds of things and better that we had.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So
Well, we were really lucky too because I knew an art teacher. And did you come and do some of the art workshops that we had, or
I
you
can't,
weren't
yeah,
around at that point?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah. So we had a few, probably around once a term. She would
Yeah.
come in. We met at one of the churches
Yeah, could
buildings,
have.
used one of the
Yeah.
church buildings.
Yeah.
And around about once a term, she'd come in and give the kids art classes. So we
Yeah.
do
I
about
think we may have attended one. I can't remember, but yeah. But there was
yes,
lots
so
of
that was
little
great.
things. Yeah.
She was
Mm.
really supportive. Not all teachers were supportive of
Yeah.
homeschoolers, but
Mm.
she was, yeah.
Well, we had a year 11 and 12, so high school English teacher next door. And even though she was a teacher, she was supportive of us. And that was nice because I was able to bounce some stuff off her too. And
Mm,
another teacher was a special ed teacher that I knew through my work when I worked for the education department. And I was able to, yeah, get some support from her. So,
mm,
yeah, and thinking about things differently.
mm,
So,
mm,
when a kid's got all three of the dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia, the recommendation was to find something that person likes and then work with that. And
mm,
we did that with cooking, and that covered a lot of stuff, like as an example only, but if a child has struggles with that but wants to cook muffins, well, that's fine. Even if it's a box of muffins, you have to read the instructions or learn the instructions and then measure the extra items and follow the temperature and
Well, and if you wanted to do 2 boxes, then that's your maths with having to double it.
double up. Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of looking around and trying to think beyond the obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, everything we do involves maths and language. So yeah, just that we take it so for granted that we don't always see it. Yeah.
That's true.
So I think this English teacher had trouble with the teenage boys trying to get them to read because they had prescribed reading in year 12. And she said, okay, I want you to bring in a magazine about a subject you like. And of course, lots of car magazines came in. But these kids knew their stuff. She said they could go through the details of a motor and, all sorts of things. So, yeah.
Especially for boys, like our education system is definitely more suited, generally, this is a generalisation, but is definitely more suited to girls than it is to boys on the whole.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like, come into class, sit down, listen to this lecture, write about the lecture, and then go on to the next one.
Yes.
Which is because girls tend to, they're just more social creatures and not more social, but it's
we
just isn't it?
have the hormonal requirement as women or girls to be safe because of what our bodies can do and what male bodies can do to us. So we're geared psychologically to seek connection and support and understand people because it keeps us safe. So that's from a primal point of view.
And so when you look at our education system now, it's definitely more suited for girls than boys.
Yeah, and even ADHD girls aren't hyperactive like ADH boys. So a girl might be ADHD, but she's not going to be hyperactive in the classroom and disruptive. She's more likely to be going, like painting a picture in her head or creating something. So, and boys are even our eyes are different. See, female.
I did know that every cell of our body is different according to our sex, but I didn't think about our eyes.
There's the cones in women's eyes are designed to keep everything within a small area.
Really?
Why would we need a small area? Because we carry children. And children we need to keep close and keep an eye on and watch if they're going to fall off the end of the chair or something. Male eyes their cones are geared to see distance, which is why he can't see the rubbish bag that you put on the floor in front of the front door, because his eyes are programmed to look in the distance and hunt.
Yep.
So there's
that makes sense.